What's up, Mets fans? The Bat Fry, Kenny Fry here from the Bat Cave. Come up on this episode, we'll be talking a very, very hot New York Mets. And what do we attribute it to? Do we attribute it to timely hitting from the core four, from JD Martinez heroics, pitching? Do we contribute to starting pitching the kids, or do we attribute it to a fat purple mascot from a burger joint? I'll be talking about that and much, much more coming up in about 45 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Good morning, New York Mets Nation, and welcome to the Bat Cave. I'm your host, the Bat Fry, Kenny Fry, and you know what day it is. It's Hump Day! Whoop, whoop! Hump Day in the house. There we go. Hope everybody's doing well. Mets Nation, I know we're doing good. We are doing good right now, but again, I say this a lot. It's a roller coaster, man. It's a long-ass season. You have peaks, you have your valleys. It depends on what you do in between those peaks and valleys, right? Can you remain steady in between those peaks and valleys? When you hit the high of high, what do you do before you hit the low? Because what goes up must come down. So when the Mets eventually do come down from this, what do they do then? The next 10 after a nice win streak like this. What do they look like after that? Do they look like the old Mets 2-8 or 3-7, or are they able to stay even keel? A 6-4, a 5-5, and then hit that next peak. Try to avoid a deep valley. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this high is off. After this high is over. We got a comment here from our boy Yuki Matsui. What's up, Yuki? Said, are the Mets lucky or are the Mets good? Are you ready to buy? I'm not ready to buy. I said this before. I said I do believe this team is built to sell, and I do think if you sell and you look at bringing up maybe younger players, some guys from your farm system, they might be better off. To be 100% honest with you, I'm still looking. When I speak like that, when I'm talking like that, I'm talking about mainly the pitching staff, the starting pitching, and there's so many young arms down there. I think it'd be more beneficial for the Mets to throw those guys out there than continue to throw Jose Quintana, for instance. Terrific outing the other night, right? It was 6 innings pitched. I think it was 1 earned run, maybe. I think it was, or something like that. Terrific outing. The last few before that, terrible. And I just look at that. You just can't really base it off that last outing. You had to base it off of the whole season so far. And I feel like he's had more starts that have been crap than have been good this season. He's been getting hit a lot harder this season. You look at his age. I'm like, if you could sell him and get, I don't know what you would actually get for him. It's probably nothing really beneficial. But you never know. You just never know. But that's a spot open then for a Budo, for a Christian Scott, guys like that, and so David Peterson's looking, not terrible. Tyler McGill, I think they need to lengthen the leash on him a little bit. Now his last outing, he went 5 innings pitched, had a very high pitch count for the inning before that. They pull him out in the 5th inning, so he got like 4 1/3 or 4 2/3 innings pitched, and he was only in the, I think it was the 70s or 80s, where he could have, I think he could have finished that 5th inning. I think he could have worked out of trouble, but I think they need to lengthen the leash on him a little bit. Let him go a little bit deeper. Now that he's a couple starts into the season here after coming off the IL, Sean Manaea, that's another guy I might look at, either moving on from or moving him to the bullpen. I think he might be able to get something all right for Sean Manaea out there in the trade market. But again, it opens up another spot for a young arm. So I'd rather see the young arms being trotted out, even when they are in the middle of a wild card race here. And I'll go over the wild card standings a little bit later on. And that's just how I feel. That's absolutely how I feel. Now, when I look at the offensive side of it, Yuki, I wouldn't really mess with it too much. Before last week, I was saying about potentially trading JD Martinez. Basically he's a rental this year. It's a 1-year deal. Could you sign him to multiple years if you wanted to and show him some decent money? Yeah, you can. And the guy's a professional hitter. Everybody knew that. You just look at his career. He's a professional hitter, and he's doing that now. He's a professional power hitter, and he's doing that now. And he can make money, and he could do that probably for another few years yet. So he's up there like mid-30s, late 30s, somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure how old JD Martinez is, but that's just like only like pretty much one guy I could see out of your roster besides Jeff McNeil. But we signed Jeff McNeil to that contract, and that's if you're gonna trade him, the Mets are gonna have to eat a portion or most of that contract in order to make him more attractive to a buyer. And that's one guy where I don't think should be playing right now. But it's hard to sit somebody like that with the amount of money you're paying him. Let me look up Jeff McNeil's contract right now. But besides that, the rest of the lineup, I think is good. When they're on, they're good. When they're off, they're absolutely awful or horrid. And we've seen that during May pretty much. Nothing was clicking. When something would click, everything else would not click. Everything right now is clicking, and that kind of goes with the thought process of it's a long season. You have your peaks and you have your valleys. And what are you going to do in between your peaks and valleys? It's not always going to be high the high. It's not always going to be low of low. But when you get into that middle, coming down from the high, coming up from the low, what do you do there? That's what makes your season. If that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes sense or not. It makes sense to me when I say it. Jeff McNeil. I got my trusty dusty secretary here, my cellular telephone. Where would we be without this stuff? It's amazing. Jeff McNeil contract. So Jeff McNeil, he signed a 4-year deal. I thought it was a 5-year deal, but a 4-year deal, including a $50 million guarantee and an average annual salary of $12.5 million. So in 2024, McNeil earned a base salary of $10.25 while carrying a total salary of $10.25 million. So, I mean, we do have the richest owner in baseball. I don't know if he's the richest owner in American sports or not, but it's probably pretty close. The dude's got it, but if they really wanted to get rid of him, they probably could make it work. They could make it plausible that Steve could pay off most of that big contract of Jeff McNeil's, make him more attractive. And I'm willing to bet there's going to be a team out there that's going to be slumping a little bit at the trade deadline, that's in the mix, and they just need that extra either fielder or hitter. And they view Jeff McNeil, they look at it like, you know what, he was a batting champ. He did finish last season strong. Maybe we pick him up, change the scenery, and he'll finish this season out strong and really really contribute. There's going to be a team out there that's going to look at that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. I think out of all of it, I think Jeff McNeil is the most interesting, especially with the Mets fan base really coming down hard on him, and a lot of chatter, a lot of clamoring to get rid of Jeff McNeil, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I don't know what the hell happened to the guy. He's definitely not the same 2022 Jeff McNeil, and he's definitely not the same as last year Jeff McNeil. Even though the Jeff McNeil last year that stunk the first half or better of the season last year, he looked better than what this Jeff McNeil did. This Jeff McNeil looks absolutely lost and frustrating, absolutely frustrating watching that guy play. Now, fielding wise, he's still been pretty decent fielding, especially at second base, but it's not enough to make up for what he's doing at the plate. Eileen, what's up, Eileen? Hump day, Eileen. That's right. This is as close as I can get to Grimace is the purple name tags there, and as far as I can tell, that's purple. That's Grimace purple. So I'm not colorblind, but sometimes you get certain shades of purple or whatever. It's kind of rough to see. The Clippers bomber got more money than Steve Cohen. So yeah, so it's hard to believe that there's people out there with more money than Cohen. Can you imagine, Yuki? What would you do with Steve Cohen's money? I mean, all right. It's a two-part question for you, Yuki Matsui. If you were Steve Cohen and you had all that money, what would you do with the Mets wise, roster wise, and secondly, and then this is for anybody out there. This isn't just for Yuki Matsui, but Eileen, I know you're watching right now. But if you had Steve Cohen's money outside of baseball, you're not the owner of the Mets. You're just you're just Yuki Matsui. You're just Eileen. You're just Joe Schmo watching the Bat Cave here. You're the Bat Fry. What would you do with that kind of money that Steve Cohen has, the billions and billions of dollars? I mean, what would you do with that kind? What would you buy? What would you do with yourself? It's always fun to think about that stuff, but then it's also depressing knowing that you don't have that kind of money. Steve Cohen is currently worth let's see here. Steve Cohen worth $19.8 billion. So what would you do with $20 billion? $20 billion with a B. With a B. Yeah, damn Saudi prince, man. Saudi princes have a lot more. And the Mets won last night. Yeah, it was tight. Last night the Mets were down 6-2. Able to battle back. So some big hits, and I know a lot of people on Pete Alonso and wanting to get rid of Big Pete, and he's not clutch. Well, there you go. You got a hit. You got a hit when it meant something. And I know it wasn't a home run, but it was a nice rip, a double, an RBI double to put the Mets ahead at the end of the game there. And another big game from Vientos and Alvarez. Alvarez's bat starting to come around, and can't wait to see those power numbers. One thing I worry about with Alvarez is he's hitting with a thumb brace on. He's playing with a thumb brace, with a brace on the thumb, and it hasn't affected his catching. It doesn't look like, but he told I don't know if it was SNY or reporters or whatever that it is different with him hitting. He's still trying to get used to hitting with it on, and so where I worry is when it comes off, the adjustment back to being able to hit with it off, because it's. You get so used to something, and you take it off, and then it's like for instance, my wedding ring. You wear a wedding ring, you get used to it. You get used to it being on. You take it off, and all of a sudden your hand feels weird. It's like the finger looks weird. It feels weird. Then you eventually get used to it again. It takes time, but then what happens then? Does it revert back? You still have a time period where he struggles at a plate. I don't know. That's just the one thing I worry about that with the thumb braces. He's building bad habits while trying to adjust his swing to hitting with that on. But great night, 3-hit night last night. He had a big was a 2-run double to the gap, and the offenses looked really good. So, and Sevy last night started off well. I think it was the 5th inning, kind of fell apart for him. He got 5 runs in the 5th inning, but he still won 6 innings. So Sevy, he's had a pretty decent season overall. A couple clunkers, but still eating up innings. That's good. Eileen says, I took Severino last night in free FanDuel lineup, and he was up and down so much. Yeah, it was a rough outing. Like I said, he looked good earlier from what I saw, and then right there in the middle there, the 5th inning kind of got his pecker smacked a little bit. There we go. Yuki Matsui. If I had Steve Cohen money, I would buy the Japanese MPB and use it as my personal minor league. There you go. Smart. A lot of great Japanese players. If I had Steve Cohen money, I would buy a border wall around Flushing to keep Yankees away. Eileen, you hear that? Yuki's keeping you out. He's blocking you out. All Yankee fans. We got the Subway Series coming up, 2-game set, which I don't like the 2-game sets. I think 2-game sets are stupid. Do the 3-game sets, home and away. The 2-game stuff, I don't get. They've done that the last few years, I believe. And that bothers the hell out of me. Just like in London, when they went to London against the Phillies, a 2-game set. The hell is that? Do 2 series. If you want to do 3 home, 3 away, do it like that. What the, you go over there for 2 games? Nonsense. It doesn't make any sense to me. Cowboy Dave, what's going on, brother? You can check Dave out tonight, 9:30 p.m. Dem 215 boys, Dave and Paul talking Dallas Cowboy football. Dave was on also last night. Dave and Joe Sullivan with extra innings talking Major League Baseball. Great show by those guys. They do a good job checking out the whole league. Not just one particular team, the power rankings and stuff like that. Joe's just awesome. He's a professional, basically. He does a hell of a job, and very knowledgeable about his sports, and funny as hell. You just don't see it coming, and all of a sudden he hits you with that joke or quick remark, and it's like, Joe, you got me. So good stuff there, and also Saturday nights, Dave is with me. And occasionally Adam Glenn with the Atomic Drop podcast, talking WWE wrestling. Now, a lot to talk about this week coming up this Saturday night with the introduction to the Wyatt Six. If you don't know what that is, if you're not a wrestling fan, then this is but it was pretty exciting stuff. It was good stuff. And speaking of the devil, he shall appear. What's up, Joe? How you doing, buddy? The Mets are red hot right now, and in the opener, Joe, I said it's a long season. Baseball's a long ass season, and there's going to be peaks and valleys, for every team, even the teams that are at the very bottom. You have peaks and valleys. It's what you do in between those peaks and valleys. How deep does that valley get? You got your peak. You hit a nice 10-game stretch. The last 10, the Mets are 8-2. You hit a nice 10-game stretch. 15-game stretch. Since Jorge Lopez's glove throwing incident, where against the Dodgers, he gets tossed for arguing. I think it was a check swing. I think it was. Throws the glove over the netting into the crowd, which whatever. That doesn't. I don't care about that. It doesn't matter to me. I don't think that's a big deal at all. And if anything, I think that's great for the fans. Get some sort of souvenir from the player, especially a glove. That's something you don't see very often, and it's exciting to see. So you get a show. But then also after that game, whether he ran down himself as a teammate or he ran his team down as being the worst team in Major League Baseball, that could be argued back and forth. But he gets DFA'd, and the Mets hold a player-only meeting. And it's funny that they do that. Yuki Matsui asked me, I think it was 2 weeks ago when that all went down, about player-only meetings and my thoughts on player-only meetings. I said, I don't see them as being beneficial really in baseball just because it's a different type of clubhouse. Football, I think it's more beneficial during football. A lot more testosterone flying around. I don't know. I think it's easier to hold somebody more accountable in football than it is baseball. But that's what they did. The Mets had a player-only meeting after that debacle against the Dodgers and everything that went down and all the media attention it garnered and the Jorge Lopez thing. And they held the meeting, and since then they've been 12-4. I mean, you can't beat those results right now. But what's going to happen when they come down from this high, right? That valley, are they going to be able to, keep it at a minimum? Instead of having a 2-8, 1-9, 3-7 valley, can they keep that valley at 5-5, 4-6, somewhere around there, which you can deal with that. Before you get to that next peak, you'll ride it out and hit that next peak. Maybe go 6-4 through a 10 and ride it. It all depends. What happens with your list. Because if you win 7 in a row now, then all of a sudden you turn it around, and you lose 7 or 8 in a row. It doesn't matter then. That's what happened kind of when the Mets went on that nice run early in the season. They started off 0-5, and then they I think they ended up going what was it? Was it 12-5 after that or something like that? They really reversed it. They had a nice little run, but then May came and that was it. Everything was erased and then some. So if you could avoid stuff like that, the Mets should be in really good shape, I think. Because you look at that lineup. Look at 1 through 9, and there's not too many holes when they're playing right. When they're not playing right, then obviously there are holes everywhere. But when they're playing right, there's a lot. That's a hell of a lineup that they have to pitch through. Lindor. What do we have? Lindor, Nimmo. What has it been going? Martinez, I think. Then Alonso. Then Marte. Vientos. Alvarez. And then it's been like the outfield, Bader or Taylor or whatever. So I mean, you just looking at that lineup there. That's a tough line to go through when those guys are actually playing the way they should be playing, the way they're being paid to play. So if they play right, they play like they should, like they can. That's a tough lineup to go through. Then their weak point is still their starting pitching. Looking at that starting pitching coming in to the season, you knew it was going to be iffy. A lot of those guys that they signed had terrible seasons last year or the last 2 seasons, but in the recent past, they've had some success. So you kind of hinge, maybe they are able to find that, that success and, get back to that, which, if you ask me, for the most part, some of those guys have. Like Severino, he hasn't quite hit the same type of success that he had with the Yankees, years ago, but he has pitched a lot better this season than when he pitched last year for the Yankees, which, he had an RA of like 7 or 8 or whatever the hell it was, something astronomical. He's able to find himself again. Sean Manaea, last season, I think he pitched to an ERA of 4 or 5. Right now, pitching better than that. Not much better recently, but still pitching better than that. I just need to get this guy, get his ass into the 6th inning. That's it'd be nice to see a 6 innings or maybe a 7 inning outer from this guy. It's always 5. He'll start off fantastic. You go 3 innings and he has 30 pitches. Then all of a sudden it's the 5th inning. He's at 190 pitches or something. It's just insane. How the hell did he get there? But yeah, it's and Joe, you check Joe out on Mondays on the Sully Squad. I believe that's 6 p.m. Talking Philly sports, great show there. Those guys on there, when they all get together, Joe usually has 2 or 3 guys on there with him, and they're a riot. They really are. Super smart in the Philly sports. 76ers, Phillies, Eagles, Flyers, stuff like that. They know what they're talking about. And like I said, Joe, on the extra innings, Cowboy Dave talking Major League Baseball extra innings. Great show there. Talking the whole the whole major league. They do power rankings and stuff like that. Very, very, very knowledgeable. So, and Yuki brings up an interesting stat here, and I did see actually seen we probably seen the same thing. I don't know if it was on X or not. I think it was on X. I seen a graphic where it said that the Mets are 17-1 when Francisco Alvarez starts as a catcher, and that says something. That's not a fluke. That does say something, and it says something that since he's returned, the starting pitching has felt like it's been. I don't have stats in front of me. Like I can sit here and look up stats on my phone again, but that's not saying I'm going to get the right stat. I have to go back and look at each individual game, and I'm not going to go and pay on one of these stat sites and pay for stats. I'm just not going to do it because I don't get paid to do this, so I'm not going to put money out to do that. But it feels like the starting pitching has been much better since Alvarez has been back, and the games that Alvarez catches, and Luis Torrens has been awesome. You can't say enough about Luis Torrens since the Mets have pulled that trade off with the Yankees, where I think the Mets sent Narvaez there, and they got Torrens back. He's been decent offensively, a couple clutch hits and home runs, but defensively throwing runners out, making plays at the plate. We talk this hot streak since the Jorge Lopez incident. One of those games is over in London, Phillies Mets, where Torrens makes that awesome play in front of home plate to make the final 2 outs of that game to preserve that win. Bases loaded, 1 out. You're the Mets. You're expecting the wheels to fall off right now, and you get lucky. Castellanos' bat disintegrates in front of his eyes. Ball goes 3 inches in front of home plate. You step on home plate, and as after I think it was after he threw the ball to first base, gets slid into. But I just threw an absolute seed to first base, to get that double play and get the Mets out of trouble and get the win. Luis Torrens has been awesome, absolutely awesome. But you just can't say enough about Alvarez. His power is going to come back. I do believe this guy can be a 25 to 30 plus home run kind of guy. Batting average wise, I think that he is what he is. I think he's going to be 220, 230. But if you get those power numbers, 25 to 30 home runs, you'll take that. 80 RBI, 70, 80 RBI. You'll take that from your starting catcher. Just defensively, he's been very good. Since he's been up with the Mets. Not only this year when he's been able to play, but also last season. Defensively, where it was, I've talked about this a lot last season, where that was supposed to be his weakness to his game was his defense, and I think it was, probably one of his biggest strengths last season is the way he handled the pitching staff, the rapport he had with the pitchers, the way he call games, or depends on who the pitcher is. The pitchers call the game. Now with the whole pitch com thing, which I still don't like. I can't tell you how much I miss seeing the catchers throw signals up there. It was an art. It was an absolute art watching the fingers go. Calling out numbers and thinking to yourself, what the hell is he calling? And then hearing the announcer or the play-by-play color analysis guy kind of breaking it down and this is the indicator, this is this, and this means that. So I miss that stuff, but it is what it is. Major League Baseball trying to hurry stuff up, whatever. But Frankie's been awesome, absolute awesome, and his numbers, his offensive numbers, are going to come around. Hopefully, the last couple of days, the way he's been hitting, I think he had did he have back-to-back nights of 3-hit games, or is that Vientos? Or they both did? I'm not sure now. I think they both did. The Mets 2 nights ago against the Rangers, 20 plus hits, so a lot of guys had multiple hits. Cowboy Dave says, right now the Mets only a half game out of the wild card spot. Thanks for stealing my thunder, Dave. I was going to cover that in a little bit. You know what? I'll do it right now. To hell with it. Since Dave wants to steal my thunder. I'm teasing you, Dave. I don't want you to get all excited here. So let me go ahead and pull it up in my notes. All right, so looking at the NL East, the Phillies still sitting at top, 49-24. Like I said, I still believe that's their division. I don't think anybody's going to sniff them this year. 49-24, the plus 104 run differential. They won again last night. Winners of 2 in a row, 5-5 in their last 10. The Braves 40-31, 8 games back. A ton of injuries with the Braves right now. They're sitting at a plus 39 run differential. Winners of 2 in a row, 5-5 in their last 10. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do at the trade deadline with a bunch of these injuries. You know, if they're gonna be buyers or if they're gonna count on that prospect pool that they have, the farm system. The Mets tied for third place with Washington, 35-37, 13.5 out. Mets at a -5 run differential. Winners of 7 in a row, 8-2 in their last 10. Washington 35-37, 13.5 out. Run differential -14. Losers of 1, but they're 8-2 in their last 10. And Miami sitting at 24-49, 25 games out, -116 run differential, at 2-8 in their last 10, and winners of 1 in a row. Doesn't make sense, but that's how I say it. Now, looking at the wild card, that's the most important race. That's the race that the Mets are in. They're not in the NL East race. Braves sitting at the top of there, +5. They're the number 1 wild card spot right now. 40-31. They're sitting pretty there right now. Second wild card goes to St. Louis. They're at 36-36. They're at a +0.5 game. Arizona 36-37. That's your third wild card. San Francisco 36-38, a half game out. Mets 35-37, half game out. Washington a half game out, same record. San Diego now 37-40, 1 game out. They're struggling. They're struggling hard. They've lost, I think, 5 in a row now. Cincinnati 35-38, 1 game out. Pittsburgh 35-38, 1 game out. And the Cubs, who the Mets will be playing next series, 35-39, 1.5 out. Then after that, it's the Rockies, and I think they're like 11 out. So I'm not even going to talk about that. But yeah, it's going to be. This is why you add teams to the wild card race. It's a lot of fun. It keeps more teams in it. It keeps more fans interested. And going down the stretch, I think it's going to stay like this, for most of the season. Maybe some of those teams dwindle away, fall off a little bit, but it makes it fun. It makes it more interesting. And so I do like when they expand the playoffs like that. It could dilute it then, your playoffs and stuff. You have a really good team like playing against a really bad team. But again, you just never know. Once you make the playoffs, everybody's 0-0. You just never know. You think they add? Joe, I talked about this at the beginning of the show. I'm a big guy where I think the Mets were built this year to sell no matter what. I know last year when the dickhead Scherzer, was flapping his gums after he got traded away, how, he's telling everybody what Billy Epler was telling him, the Mets GM last year, that the Mets are looking ahead to 2025, 2026. And he's like, the Mets are not even going to compete in 2024. Then you have Cohen come out and say, yes, we're looking towards the future, 25, 26, but 2024, the Mets are still looking to compete, still looking to make playoffs, but we're making a harder push for 25, 20, building towards something towards the future more. So, excuse me. So, I think the team was built more geared towards 25, 26, but still to compete, because some of these guys they picked up have had success, in the near past. If that even sounds right, I don't know if that even makes any sense. I just mentioned before, like Severino last year, absolutely terrible, but he's had some really good seasons, with the Yankees, in the not too distant past. And, but, guys like that, they're expendable. They're 1 year or 2 year contracts. They are fairly expendable. If you do have a clunker of a season, or if you're, all right, let's just, we have this guy in the farm system. He's ready to come up. We need to find a spot for him. Well, we can trade this guy away. We can, get rid of this guy, bring something else in, from, get something else back, because he's had a decent season, and put that guy back in the farm system and not really lose anything roster wise. If you like right now, if you traded away Sean Manaea and you brought up Christian Scott, which he should be up. Why he's not up, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure what's going on there. They have him pitching down in AAA. But anyway, you call up Christian Scott and you trade away Sean Manaea, you're not losing anything. If anything, you're gaining something, I think. So it's for me, it's I think that's the way I said it last week. It's adding by subtracting. By selling some of these guys off, being somewhat sellers, not really looking to get a whole lot in returns, kind of building that farm system up still. Calling up some of those guys that are ready, I feel like you're adding to your roster by getting more youthful, getting that sometimes that youth brings a little bit of a spark even to the more veteran type guys. And I think that's where the Mets could benefit. And I'm not saying sellers like selling off Pete Alonso, selling off JD Martinez, stuff like that, or even Severino. I'm not, I think if anything, I think the Mets should look to, after the season, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. We're not even halfway through yet, and I lost my train of thought. Oh, and look to extend Severino. I just think that he's earned it so far. And again, let's see how it finishes out this year. But they should extend somebody like that. I think he could be a nice veteran arm there in the Mets rotation. Who, for what you would think is probably going to be younger, much younger next year. You're going to see a couple new faces, and because I would expect fully Christian Scott be a full-time pitcher with the Mets next year, starter. He pitched well when he was up, and I think he'll pitch well when he is finally called back up. Jose Butto might be another guy. Could be a full-time starter next year. We get Kodai Senga back, sometime. I seriously don't think we're going to see Kodai Senga this year. I really don't. To be honest with you, I think when he is ready, I just think the Mets should just shut it down. Just let you know what, instead of pushing it, because what's going to happen. It seems to happen so much now in baseball in general, not just the Mets. But you have somebody that's out on the IL for some sort of arm issue. They're out for a large portion of the season. They come back, they pitch 2 starts. All of a sudden, they have forearm tightness, and all of a sudden, UCL's torn. Now you lose them for the next season and a half. So, me personally, I just shut it down for the rest of the season. Bring him back next year. If you're not going to get this guy back until August, why? Why even bother? I know they're talking about this on another podcast. I think it might have been the Locked On podcast where when Quintana came back last year, it was late July, and you were still able to get like 10 to 12 starts, whatever it was, out of him. 10 or 12 good starts out of Quintana. He pitched well last season when he did come off the injured list. But is that worth risking the a year and a half of Senga? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be worth it. But that's I'm not a Mets decision maker. I'm just a guy here with a podcast talking, basically opinions. I have no facts for anything. I tell you, just give a shout out to somebody. They're probably not watching, but Chris, CPNY Sports, as he's known on X. Chris, he does a terrific show. He had I wish I could remember the dude's name. But he does a podcast called Mets Weekly. But he did a post game show after the Mets throttling of the Rangers 2 nights ago, 14-2, and the fella he had on, both those guys, just rattling off, facts, and they had great opinions as well. I mean that's they're really impressive listening to those guys, and like I said, in the comment section, like, Jesus Christ, this show makes my show look like a clown show. I mean, I don't claim to be anything that I'm not. I'm not some sort of expert. I watch the Mets as much as possible. I love the Mets. But I like average. I like batting average. I like home runs. I like RBIs. I still think all that stuff is important. My favorite stat is OPS, but that's as far as I go into analytics. OPS, because the only reason that's as far as I go, because that's adding just 2 things together: on base percentage and slug. and those are two important stats as well. So that's as far as the analytics as I can go, as I will go. Once you start talking about WAR, WAR plus, OPS plus, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'll probably never know what you're talking about. So I really don't get into that stuff too much. But I mean, if you're into the analytical side of it, you got to check out that Mets Weekly podcast. I'm gonna start listening to that a little bit. But that cat was throwing out numbers left and right, and it's like, wow, it was really impressive. But anyway, there we go. Joe Sullivan again. We will help you this week after Phillies beat San Diego and Arizona's ass. Yeah, that's especially San Diego. San Diego's being down right now. Slap that ass, multiple times, Joe. The Phillies can. And Arizona, the Mets actually just played Arizona a few, what was that, 2 weeks ago, last week, or no, I think it was 2 weeks ago. And I think it was a 4-game split. That's what it was. It was a 4-game split, which was terrible. The Mets won the first 2 games, fairly convincingly, and then squandered away the next 2. Terrible, terrible stuff. West Paul 1, thanks for checking out the show. Thank you for commenting. I finally made it to another live. I appreciate it very much, buddy. Thank you for commenting. Tell all your friends. Say, hey, listen to this guy. Look at him. Hey. But yeah. Thanks for checking the show out. I appreciate it. We got Joe here again. I'm not talking about adding a big guy by giving up top prospects. I mean, adding a solid guy or 2. I just don't see it. I don't see it for the Mets. I don't see them adding anybody significant. I'm not thinking a huge name or nothing like that, but I just don't see them being able to add anything significant. Because if they want to get that guy, a solid guy, I still think they'll have to give up prospects. And I'd rather see them hold on to those prospects and try to build, from the ground up. Much like the Braves or a team like that, where they have a solid farm system where if something does go wrong, somebody does get hurt, they can pull from that and not really worry about it. But I just see them selling off a couple 1-year deal type guys and filling in through from the farm system actually to make room for some other guys to move up and go from there. Like next year's Mets, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with next year's Mets. Because there are a couple guys, down in the farm that are just about ready to make their way through here, and everybody wants to see. Everybody's been clamoring for, but there's like nowhere really for them to go yet. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the roster and how they add, how they subtract, and what room there is for some of these young guys to kind of finally break through into the lineup. Onto the roster anyway. But yeah, I just don't think they add a big guy or even a solid guy. I just have a hard time seeing it. Anybody significant anyway. Maybe something like that. Yeah. So yeah. Okay, I could see something like that. Kind of equivalent to what when the Phillies added Noah Syndergaard a couple of years ago on their World Series run. Noah was with I think he was with the Dodgers then, and the Phillies I think he was with the Dodgers. The Phillies traded for him and came over. He pitched. He didn't pitch bad for the Phillies. I thought he had a couple decent starts. He pitched well for what he got in the playoffs. He didn't get a whole lot of innings in the playoffs, but I thought Noah pitched well, and which made me happy. I felt bad for the guy. He got injured, just contract, and comes back, pitches one more inning with the Mets, traded away in the offseason, and hasn't really been the same since. I'm not even sure if he's even with anybody right now. If he is, it has to be in the minor leagues. It's a shame, because he was probably my favorite pitcher out of that group. Between him, DeGrom, oh God damn it, I can't think of the guy's name again. Matt Harvey, Steven Matz, and even if you want to go back even further, Zach Wheeler. But Syndergaard, it was always a guy that I just I got really excited when he pitched. It's like, all right, we got Thor on the mound, and he just brought that attitude. Didn't care. Threw hard, had electric stuff, and it was a bummer to see like after Tommy John and stuff like that, he hasn't really recovered from it. So that's part of sports, though. You know what I mean? There's injuries, and sometimes you can come back from it, sometimes you just can't. Sometimes it's just over. But yeah, I don't know who would be out there for the Mets to look for. You'd have to kind of start looking at teams that are floundering, that are maybe in the wild card race but aren't ready for the wild card race, and look to see what guys they have on their rosters on like 1-year deals or 2-year deals or bad deals. That like grossly underperformed. They want to get rid of, and you work a deal out where maybe they eat a portion of the contract, you eat the other half of the contract, kind of thing. Or those 1-year deal guys who are basically just a rental for the next few months. But yeah, I could see something like that where the Mets do something like that. But anything above that, I wouldn't. I couldn't see happening. But yeah, that's a great call up, Joe. I like that. Something similar to that, a deal something similar to that would be something I would expect. All right. So what else do we got here? I had a whole bunch of stuff written down. Whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I you know what I mean. Another thing, sad to see yesterday, the passing of Willie Mays, the Say Hey Kid. And I had a bad feeling about it a couple days ago. I read, I don't know where it was, if it was ESPN or if it was CBS Sports or wherever. Somewhere on the interwebs, I read that Willie Mays was not going to attend the special game the MLB has set up for a tribute to the Negro Leagues that they're doing. I'm not sure. I think it's later this month. I don't know when it is exactly. I know either it was yesterday or today. They're doing a minor league game, I think in Alabama, to kind of pay homage to the Negro Leagues. But then they're going to do a game, and I think it was it the Cardinals? I'm not sure if it was Cardinals and Giants or the Cardinals but it doesn't matter who it was. But it was in I guess Willie Mays' hometown, and he put a statement out there that he wasn't going to he was not going to be able to leave the Bay Area and attend. And as soon as I read that, I kind of got like a sinking feeling, like, oh man, I hope to Say Hey Kid's all right. He's 91, 92 years old, somewhere around there. And he just had a bad feeling that, because he wasn't going to be able to make it there, that, maybe he's sick or not doing well. And, lo and behold, just a few days after that statement, he passes away. So, super bummer. I've said on the show before, I've died, if you've seen the Batcave before, especially in the off season, I do a lot of top 10 countdowns. I've a couple of the countdowns I had, like back in February for Black History Month, I did a countdown of the best African American players to have ever played baseball, and I had Willie Mays at top. Just the greatest player. I've never seen him play, so I can just go off of stats and video footage and how other people talk about him, and just amazing career. I think it was a 24-year career, 24-time All-Star, unbelievable. Won the World Series, 2-time National League MVP, 302 lifetime average, 660 home runs. And the one thing I never thought of, I heard this actually yesterday, listened to the Mets broadcast of the game from last night, and they were talking about this on SNY. Keith Hernandez, who grew up watching Willie Mays, used to go to Candlestick Park or whatever they used to call it back then to watch Willie. But then they brought up a hell of a point that Willie might have had more home runs if he played in a different ballpark, because I guess certain parts of that stadium the wind was always blowing in. And I do remember when the San Francisco 49ers played at Candlestick Park, that was one of the big things was the wind, the swirling winds in Candlestick, and just how windy it would be in some spots, and so there's the potential he could have had more. I'm not gonna say he would have more than Babe Ruth or where Hank Aaron ended up finishing years later. But he could have had maybe he could have pushed close to 700. Who knows? You never know. You can speculate that all day, every day if you want. But yeah, he had 1,909 RBI, 3,293 hits, over 300 stolen bases, 338 stolen bases, and of course, one of the most memorable plays in World Series history, that over-the-shoulder catch in Game 1 of the 1954 World Series. So just being able to watch that clip over and over again, hearing the call. I'm not sure who made that call on the radio, but it's just an awesome classic call from baseball on the radio. It's very nostalgic, and just a timeless piece. Watching him run back and make that catch, just turning and throwing that ball in, awesome. And I read his career stats there. He also missed the 1952 and 53 seasons after being drafted into the Army. So I don't remember if that was Vietnam or if that was Korea. I always get the two mixed up. So I apologize. I think it was Korean War. So missed 2 seasons right there, a season and a half, I think it was actually. But yeah, so thoughts and prayers out to the family of the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays, greatest baseball of all time, but baseball player of all time. And I think when I did my list of greatest players of all time, I think I had him at 2. I think I went Babe Ruth at 1. I'm just a Babe Ruth mark. It is what it is. I'm not going to apologize for it. Not to get off on a tangent, I'll read Yuki's comment in a second here. Not to get off on a tangent here, but it bothers me hearing people talk about Babe Ruth, and like, oh, if he faced today's pitching, he never faced a Dominican pitcher before, or a pitcher that threw 90 mile an hour or whatever. He ate hot dogs and drank beer. He was the best of his time. All right, you cannot pull anybody out of another time and put them in a spot, that same exact person, and expect them to be that same person they were. And you can't pull somebody from 1920 and expect them to do the things they did in 1920 in 2024. Impossible, right? It's impossible in any sport. In any sport, you can't pull. I don't think you can pull Joe Montana right now and put him at quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers and expect the same results that he had in 1980s. I think it's impossible. So for people to say to diminish what Babe Ruth did, like, oh, he only faced pitchers throwing 70 mile an hour. He only did this, or it was still segregated back then. That was the era. There's nothing you could do about that. All right. I understand that. Now, he did do barnstorming tours and stuff like that, where he did play against Negro League teams. He played in Japan and stuff like that. But like just trying to compare or trying to diminish what some of these baseball players did in the past because they didn't face what you face today, it's ridiculous. Now, the way I would argue that is, all right, okay, Babe Ruth was for that era, a terrific hitter. Now, who's to say that with today's technology, today's knowledge of analytics, today's knowledge of nutrition and stuff like that, who's to say that Babe Ruth wouldn't be even better nowadays? Who's to say Babe Ruth wouldn't have had 900 home runs? given the technology and stuff like that the players have today. So I mean, it's just it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous whenever I hear somebody's like, "Oh, if Babe Ruth faced a Dominican pitcher," it's like, come on, man. Say really? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely 100% ridiculous. He played in the 1920s. All right, that's his era. That's it's just trying to give well, if he faced this guy, if he faced Nolan Ryan, all right, well let's put Babe Ruth as an actual baseball player in the 1980s with that all the advantages of the players had in the 1980s and stuff like that, or 1990s, however you want to look at it. With all the same advantages, and maybe Babe Ruth is still Babe Ruth or even better. So it's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous, and it drives me insane. Because you can say that about so many different players. You can say about Willie Mays. Willie Mays, faced tougher pitching than what Babe Ruth might have. Babe Ruth faced tougher pitching than what Ty Cobb had. But then you look at, Ken Griffey Jr., he faced tougher pitching than what Willie Mays did. Well, yeah, it's just going to keep continuing that way. You can't go back and say, well, he didn't face this, so he wasn't as good as you think he is. He can't be the greatest of all time because he didn't face this. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right, so Yuki Matsui says there, I know this sounds wrong, but were you glad the Mets didn't sign Yamamoto after his arm injury? I don't know. So Yamamoto's so young that any kind of injury right now is, not overly concerning. It's what happens after that injury, after he does come back from his injury. Does he get injured again? Then you start thinking of Steven Strasburg and stuff like that, because the way it goes nowadays, you're waiting for your pitcher to get hurt, especially your star pitcher. You're waiting for him to get hurt, have an arm injury, and then, okay, let's get back to it now. Bring him back, and hopefully he's the same. So, I mean, for the amount of money that he wanted, I'm glad that they didn't sign him. But there's still a chance that he could have a terrific career, and still wishing that the Mets would have signed him. But no matter what, he wasn't going to be a Met. So, it's just, yeah, I don't know. There's a couple guys that the Mets were in the running for. I'm glad they didn't sign. Who was the other one? Yuki Matsui. I think he's kind of struggling right now, right? He's with the Giants, I think. He hasn't been, all that super this season. I think that's who I'm thinking of. I know Shota Imanaga with the Cubs, who the Mets will see in a few days. He's been pretty good. So, that's one guy that the Mets missed out on. $350 million for Yamamoto is a huge bullet to dodge. Yeah, and that's the only part of it, like I said. But he is really super young. He's very young. So there's still a really good chance that he could have a great career. So it's a $350 million bullet dodge for now. I mean, he's hurt now. I mean, I don't know what the severity of his injuries. I didn't hear anything. I just knew he was hurt. I didn't hear anything since that. I just think I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna anyway. I think it's funny. The Dodgers, spent all that money, being in the same shoes a couple of years ago. Everybody running down the Mets, for spending all this money, and guys are getting hurt. The Mets didn't have that problem with guys getting hurt. Well, I guess they did. The starting pitching, last year was Scherzer getting hurt. He missed some time. Verlander missing some time. Quintana was there. He didn't have a very big contract, but key pieces, hurt in spots and stuff. And the Mets just get absolutely ripped apart for the amount of money that they spent in 2023. And guys getting hurt, Mets playing shitty. Now the Dodgers, a little bit different. They're in first place in their division, and playing well over 500 ball. So, but still, it's seeing the put all that money out there for those guys, especially Yamamoto, and what he did to the Mets. kind of like just playing them. You know, that's at least that's how it felt anyway. It felt like he was playing the Mets, and seeing him hurt now, it's like good for the Dodgers, dickheads. But again, I understand it. You know, we went through it in 2023. You know, people, you know, good for those dickheads. You know, talking about the Mets. You know, spending all that money. So, whatever. Hey, what's up, Stacy? How you doing? Good morning. Big Blue Power Hour returning sometime. Coming up soon. You know, football season's right around the corner. Check Stacy out there with Evan and Danny. So I hope everything's well, Stacy. In Big Blue Country, Darren Waller retiring. A little bit of a bummer there. You know, super talent. Hopefully, it's nothing relapse related. You know, I don't know. You know, I know one thing when he was with the Raiders, he had a really good support system around him with Max Crosby, who was a recovering drug addict and stuff like that. And they kind of leaned on each other. Then when he was traded to the Giants, you know, kind of lost that. So I don't know. Hopefully, it has nothing to do with that. You know, I know he was going through a nasty divorce or whatever, and hopefully it's just him not wanting to play anymore. I don't know. But that's a real bummer for the Giants because, you know, he was a fantastic tight end. Really, really, really good. You know, just, you know, and super young yet, a lot of good years ahead of him. It's a shame. Doing well. Yankees are on fire. Yes, they are. Stacy, I don't know if you can answer this or if Eileen's still on. Garrett Cole, did he pitch yet? I thought he was supposed to pitch the other day, but I could be wrong. I was going through the Mets next couple games, and they have the Yankees listed starter against the Mets as Garrett Cole, and it didn't have any stats for him. But I thought he was supposed to throw the other day, or yesterday, or 2 days ago. So I don't know if that actually happened or if I just misheard. But Yankees, I heard there was a couple of beanings last night. Aaron Judge got hit. I don't know if he's hurt or not. I was talking to a Yankee fan at work, and he said Aaron Judge got hit with a pitch in the, I think in the hand, he said, and then Gleyber Torres got hit in the pinky. So, you know, is there anything? Are those guys hurt? Were they able to stay in the game? I'm just kind of curious. Oh, okay. Garrett Cole goes tonight. All right. Hopefully he gets rocked. Loses all confidence. I wouldn't. A very unconfident Garrett Cole to pitch against the Mets. I don't want a very good Garrett Cole feeling good about himself after a start. I don't want that Garrett Cole. Okay, so it's a rehab start. Okay, good. Eileen, back to against the Orioles. Oh, the big series there. And Aaron Judge is okay. Good. No fracture. Good. And it says the Yankees are one of the teams that I talked about a few months ago when I was doing preseason stuff. I said, you know, I think they're going to make a run to the World Series. I think I said them. Of course, the Dodgers were a pick that I had. I did say the Phillies, just because, you know, they just seem to get crazy hot at the right time, and it's like they did last season. They kind of cooled off against Arizona. Unfortunately for them, at the wrong time because they were ahead against Arizona in that series and just cooled off. But anyway, but yeah, the Yankees are a good team. Going for number 28. What's that? Oh, the 28 championship. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. An embarrassment of riches. Yeah, out there. It's terrible. All those trophies. But here's a quick question. Before I get out of here, I'm going to wrap this show up. I'm going to talk about who the Mets have up next and the starting pitchers for that. But what do you guys, whoever's watching right now, if you're, you know, YouTube, Facebook, X, if you're watching this on X right now, you can comment on the live stream. Just click that live stream video, click it again, and you can put a comment there at the bottom. I can see your comment. I'll read your comment live. What is the best trophy in sports, in your opinion? The best trophy in sports, North American sports, I should say. I mean, you could, all sorts of trophies, throughout the world. But in North American sports, major North American sports, the big four: baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL. Best trophy out of those four, for me, I think it's Stanley Cup. I think it goes Stanley Cup, uh, Major League Baseball, and then tied for third, NFL and NBA, just because it's the same damn thing. If you ask me, the NFL, you have a football on a pedestal, and then same thing with basketball. You have a ball on a pedestal, basically. So, but I think the Stanley Cup is just an awesome looking trophy, and the way they have the history tied to it, I just think it's awesome. The way they change the plates out, and they move them up a ring and stuff like that. And I think it's every, I don't know if it's 11, 12, or 13 years that, once that ring is filled up, it's taken off, sent away to the Hockey Hall of Fame or whatever, and displayed there. And they add a new ring and stuff. It's just really, really cool stuff. Yeah, I love it. It's really neat. Stacy's said the Lombardi Trophy. All right. I think in North American sports, the one that means the most is the Lombardi Trophy, because just football is so big. And that's the one, if you're a sports fan, if you're like, oh, I want my team to win, and you're a fan of all four sports, you're probably going to pick, you want your football team to win that Lombardi Trophy. I mean, for me, I don't know. I'm really torn. If I had to choose right now, Raiders, Mets, Kings, who I'd want to see win their league's championship first, I'd be torn. I'd have the Kings at third, just because they did win 12 and 2012 and 2014, so they're fairly recent. Actually, over 10 years now, but just the downturn that the Raiders have had since their last Super Bowl appearance, makes me lean towards that. Makes them lean towards wanting to see the Raiders win the Super Bowl, just to kind of end the misery. But then the Mets, it's the same kind of misery, just a little bit different. Because the Mets have had some really good seasons throughout the 2000s and stuff like that. The David Wright era, and even making the World Series a few years ago, back in 2016, I think it was, and losing to the Royals. There's been some really good seasons, and some seasons where you thought maybe they could do it. But I'm really torn, like, who I would choose to win their respective leagues championship. Mets or Raiders. It's tough for me. I love both of those teams pretty much equally. The Kings, maybe a little bit less. I love watching Kings hockey. I love the Kings, but the Raiders and the Mets are like my first sports loves, and they're so equal to me. It's tough. That's tough. Yuki says, I hate to say it, but the NBA Finals trophy, because it's global and most people watch NBA out of the four sports. So, all right. So that, all right. That's an interesting point there. Major League Baseball, and I know they're pushing to go more global. And I know baseball is big in Japan. I don't know about China. I don't know if baseball is big in China. I just assumed it was big in China, but I don't know if it is big in China. But that makes baseball somewhat global as well. But it's not very, as far as I know, it's not very big in Europe. It's big in Mexico and the Caribbean and Central America. I don't know about South America, but I wonder what's bigger, NBA or MLB throughout the world. I'm not sure. I'm curious. So anybody has thoughts on that, opinion or fact based, I'm all for it. So Well, and Yuki, is that why? Do you think that's the best trophy? Like visually and historically and stuff like that. Do you personally think the NBA trophy? What is that? What is that called? Um, what the hell is that trophy called? You have the Lombardi, is the NFL. Anyway, the NBA trophy. Do you personally think the NBA trophy is the best out of the four sports? And I'm not talking which sport is the best, but I'm just talking which trophy. Which trophy would you want sitting on your mantle at home? I'd absolutely love to have the Stanley Cup. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I just want to see the Stanley Cup in person. Life goals, man. All right, so coming up next for the Mets, guys, keep throwing comments out there. I'll read them. Coming up next for the Mets today, they got the Rangers. Final game of the series there. Mets looking for the sweep after an awesome win last night. You have Sean Manaea versus Haney for the Rangers. Haney's 2-8, 66 and 2/3 innings pitched, 4.19 ERA, 1.32 WHIP, 62 strikeouts, 18 walks. He has given up 10 home runs, so he is susceptible to the long ball. Manaea, 65 and 2/3 innings pitched, 4-3, 4.11 ERA. It's been steadily going up. So 1.32 WHIP, 67 strikeouts, 26 walks, and 7 home runs given up. First game against the Cubs, you have Quintana against Shota Imanaga. Imanaga, 76 innings pitched, 7-1, 1.89 ERA, 0.99 WHIP, 78 strikeouts, 11 walks, 7 home runs. Quintana, 72 and a third innings pitched, 2-5, 4.98 ERA, 1.37 WHIP, 50 strikeouts, 25 walks, 12 home runs. So he's been getting lit up a little bit with the long ball. Then after that, you have Tyler McGill against Jameson Taillon. David Peterson, Javier Assad going against Javier Assad against the Cubs. I want to see McGill and Peterson pitch again. I thought Peterson pitched well the other night. What did he go? I think he went 6 innings. But he pitched well, and I want to see how McGill pitches. I think McGill has it. He needs. I want to see McGill go to the 6th inning. I want to see a quality start, three earned runs or less for McGill. I think it's there. It's just, take that next step. It's frustrating. Then against the Yankees, game 1, you have Severino versus Garrett Cole. Game 2 listed right now, the starters are Sean Manaea versus Luis Skill, who's pitched very well for the Yankees so far this season. He would love to have the MLB trophy on the mantle, Yuki Matsui's. And that's another great trophy. It's a close 1 and 2 with me with the Stanley Cup and the Commissioners. I think they call it the Commissioners Trophy, the Commissioners Cup. I think they call it Commissioners Trophy. It's a close 1 and 2 there, but for me, it's definitely the Stanley Cup. The baseball, I think it's a really neat looking trophy. It has all the pennants and stuff like that on it, and some other fine details, and a lot of history as well. So I just think the Lombardi trophy and the NBA trophy is they're just really plain looking. I just feel like there's not a whole lot to it. I want my trophy to have some razzle dazzle, man. But I mean, even for the NHL, the Eastern Conference Championship and the Western Conference Championship trophies, they're really neat looking. They're huge ass trophies, and a ton of history there as well. It's I think the NHL they've done their trophies right. They've really done a good job. All right, so that's all I have for today. I would like to be back on tomorrow morning, Silver and Black Lair, talking Raiders, because I don't think I'm going to be able to get on Friday morning. So I'm going to push the Raiders ahead, and I'm going to try to get the Kings on Friday night, but I'm not 100% sold in on it yet because I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing Friday. But I'm gonna try to have the Raiders on tomorrow morning. Talk Silver and Black Lair, Las Vegas Raiders edition, and it's been a struggle for me. I like to apologize to people that do actually watch my shows regularly, and I've been really sketchy the last 2.5 weeks. Getting my shows out on time. I apologize for that. I've been it's one thing working night shift. It's a lot like a baseball season. There's a lot of ups and downs, and that's how my sleep goes. There's times where I get a nice sleep. I call it a sleep groove. I get into a nice sleep groove where I'm getting solid sleep. It's solid, 5-6 hours. Then there's times where I'm getting 3.5, 4 hours, and it's just a struggle. Every day's a struggle. But then that's where I've been the last couple of weeks. So I was even late coming on here, but it wasn't because I was sleeping. I fell asleep or whatever. We got the kids here, and kind of messing around with them, and kind of lost track of time. But here I am. All right. So I'd like to be on tomorrow morning. Saturday night, we'll have the Atomic Drop podcast talking WWE wrestling. That will be on 10 or 10:30. So non-committal here. I think I'm going to push for 10 p.m. Because I do plan on going to the AXW American Excellence Wrestling event in my area here in Pottsville. They have an event this Saturday I'd like to get to, but usually that's over in plenty of time before the Atomic Drop comes on. So the Atomic Drop should be on time on Saturday, and we'll be talking about WWE Raw and SmackDown and what's next for Drew McIntyre and all those guys. And is Chad Gable dead? Who knows? Wrestling, gotta love it. All right, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you, everybody, for checking the show out. For you Mets fans, you can check me out again next Wednesday. Same bat time, same bat channel, 10 a.m. here. You know what? I got a sponsor read to do. Jesus Christ, I almost forgot about Big Al. Almost forgot. Can't forget about Jason Fine, attorney Big Al. You can reach Big Al at 1-800-HURT-123. That's 1-800-HURT-123. Jason Fine specializes in motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls, workman's comp, and personal injury claims. He has 3 office locations conveniently located throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey. In New Jersey, the offices are located in Cherry Hill on 3 Greensward Lane. The phone number there is 856-209-5258. And in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the offices are located on 500 Grant Street, Suite 2900. The phone number there is 412-365-8151. And in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the offices are located 1628 JFK Boulevard, Suite 2120. The phone number there is 267-888-2980. That's Jason Fine, attorney Big Al. All right. So check me out next Wednesday, same bat time, same bat channel, 10 a.m. Out of the Box Sports Network, Facebook, YouTube, X. Please like, follow, subscribe. We appreciate it very much. I got another comment here before I head out. Stacy, have a good day, Stacy. Thank you very much for checking it out. Thank you for commenting. I appreciate it very, very much. It means a lot to me. So tonight, be sure to check out Dem 215 Boys, 9:30 p.m. Talking Dallas Cowboys. I think they'll be talking offensive depth chart. I could be wrong though. So be sure to check that out, Cowboy fans, or even if you're an Eagle fan or a Giant fan like Stacy is, maybe like spy on them a little bit. Get some some little tidbits there from those Cowboy fans to see what's going on with their roster. Have a good day there, Wes. Thanks for checking the show out. I appreciate it very much. It's good hearing from you again. Hopefully I hear from you again on the other shows if you get a chance. All right. I'm going to get out of here for real. So those of you that want to check out the show tomorrow, 10 a.m., Talking, actually, I'm going to go a little bit later, 10:30 a.m. because my daughter has soccer training tomorrow, 8 to 10 a.m. So I'll be on probably closer to 10:30. So check that out. Talking Raiders. I'll be talking wide receivers and tight ends tomorrow, like I've been saying for the last 2 weeks, and I keep missing it. So there we go. All right. If you don't catch that, again, like I said, 10 p.m. Saturday, talking wrestling. And if not that, then God bless it. Come back again next Wednesday and check me out here on the Bat Cave talking New York Mets baseball. Let's go, Mets.